Lady in the street, diva in the seat. She's a truckin' lady, truckin' lady.
What's up, y'all? Truckin' Lady back here after a long time off. Seems like I was still working off and on throughout that time I took off. I just needed time off from recording and all that stuff. Couple things have taken place since I last was able to come to you guys. So I was able to go to Germany, and if you follow me on TikTok and my Instagram, more so on TikTok, I have pictures and videos from that experience. I've been to Germany. I lived in Germany for many years, back in 2005, and up until like 2009. Two of my children actually born over there, but I was over there for this reason because my daughter, she graduated high school, so we went over there to go there for her. Her graduation, which was awesome. She was really excited. I had so much fun with all three of my kids. It was just a lot of fun being over there with the hubs and everything like that. So, like I said, follow me on TikTok, Truckin' Lady. I think it's a Truckin' Lady podcast, but you can also look up a Truckin' Lady. Excuse me. I've been also I had to postpone coming back sooner for recording because I got a little bit of a cold. It was not COVID, but I did get a cold for a couple days after I got back. It's from all the traveling, going from Missouri, flying from Missouri to Florida, then Florida to Germany, then Germany back to Florida, Florida back to Missouri. So my body was just like, "What are you doing?" So I'm still, if you hear me clearing my throat, that's what that's from. Also, I have two new people on my not new people, but not people. Well, the one's a dog, but she thinks she's a person. You can't tell her she's not a person. But my husband and Riri, come here. Riri has joined. Say hi, Riri. Say hi. Look, see the camera. So, it's my little Shih Tzu. She also has her own TikTok. Riri the Shih Tzu is her name. She started out as my truck dog, and then when I started teaming back in 2019, she went home to be with Daddy, and she's been a daddy's girl ever since. So now they're on my truck. Tomorrow is actually 4th of July, so I was fortunate enough to kind of get the day off today. I would like to be off on 4th of July, but so since I have off a little bit today, I didn't request it. It's just the way the loads worked. It's a Sunday, so not much is going on up here in Michigan, where I'm at right now recording. So we're at a rest area that has a grill and stuff, and we were able to. I delivered to a Sam's Club actual store yesterday, so I was able to go in there and get some stuff so we can grill, so we can kind of have our own little 4th of July on the road. And I'm going to record my next 3 episodes. So this is episode 9, and if you see me in the same T-shirt, it's because it's all gonna be from the same day. It's 3 episodes from the same day. But I just wanted to bring some more content to you guys and kind of just talk about more about my trucking experience. And I know I left off in my last episode talking about what it was like, once I got my license and was on my own. We had a breakdown and we're in Vegas and all that stuff. So now, as I'm still training, the actual training portion is about 3 months, and I didn't realize how intense the training program was going to be. I didn't realize how much of non-driving that you have to do in trucking. You have to trip plan. You have to, because you have to plan when you're going to stop. You have to plan when you're going to get fuel. You have to plan when you're going to shower. You have to plan when you're going to do laundry, stuff that people take for granted. You have to plan it when you're going to eat. You have to plan when you go to the restroom. A lot of people take for granted those things that don't live on the road, like as a job. If you're like, traveling, all that stuff, you can kind of do it as you want. But when you have a clock and you're running on a clock, it's a little bit different. Also, the paperwork that goes into it as a business owner, as I'm a lease op, so I'm running my own business, having to keep all the paperwork straight. Like, we have paperwork that we're responsible for: fuel receipts, washout receipts, lumper receipts, bill of lading. Like that's basically, for non-truckers out there, that's basically the information of what we are transporting. We have to be aware of different stuff that's in our states, like what we have to do to different weights requirements and routes restrictions and stuff like that. We have to know those things according to the states we're traveling through. I use my Atlas. And one of the things that I will say that I will use as a guide, I don't use so much now. I use Trucker's Path, but when I first started, this little doohickey here, I don't know if you can really see it very well, but it's called the Pocket Truck Stop Guide. It has, for the most part, all the truck stops and the sizes and what highways on, if they're small, medium, large, and has all kinds of other information. So if you're not a techie person, this little book here will help you. This is what my trainer trained me on, as well as me using my Atlas. The Atlas will, and I'm going to do an episode strictly on the Atlas, or at least a Diva moment on the Atlas, and do a video of actually doing, like, using my Atlas. Also, I'm not really a advanced Atlas user, so if any of my Atlas users want to help me with that video, that'd be great. Also, the on my TikTok, I'm going to do like a little short video on there. But yeah, so that's been what's going on with me up until now. So now I want to like just talk about what I went into trucking, and when I got into training, what it was like versus like basically what I thought it was versus reality type thing. What I thought it was literally was driving. I'm doing pickup and delivery, but behind the scenes, it's a lot of not getting sleep. It's not like you're not getting set sleep. You have long days, you have short days, you have bad weather days, you have issues with maintenance and stuff with your truck or your trailer. There's so much that goes into trucking that a lot of people don't realize. And if you come into this industry, or getting ready to come in this industry, or just new to this industry, you have to be willing to accept change. You have to be willing to adapt to change, and you have to be flexible and knowing that your everyday is not going to be the same. You might ride up and down the same highway twice, but you're not going to have the same outcome. One day you might have to deal with traffic, and the other day you might have nothing. One day you might have to deal with a detour, and next day you might have to deal with weather. You have to be flexible. And that's one thing that I would say has taught me in this career, is to be flexible. Because I could be picking up a load in Missouri that's going to Pennsylvania, and then halfway through, can you repower a load from Pennsylvania going, not Pennsylvania, in Ohio that's going to Texas? That's how quick things can change. And I had to learn that. I mean, luckily I was in the military, so in the military you're kind of used to that type of stuff. But for people that don't have that military background, it can be hard to accept change like that. In training, my trainer was really good at making sure I knew, for the most part, how the day was going to go, but things still could change. He'll say, be ready to go at 8 in the morning, and then he'll look at, something, weather or traffic, and be like, okay, never mind, change that, be ready to go at 7. You're on with A Truckin Lady here, and that means you're listening to me through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, wherever you get your podcast from. In my podcast, I've shared so far my experiences as a trucker coming into this industry, and I have so much more to share. But if I've inspired you to take that leap to become a truck driver yourself, I want you to join me here at Prime. Here, you will get your training, your experience, knowledge, and expertise from some of the greatest drivers out there on the road, not to mention the safest. If you don't believe me, you can look up primeinc.com. Contact a recruiter at 1-877-491-1108. Give them my driver referral code, ALLSIA. We hope to see you rolling next to us on the road.
Truckin Lady.
Or he wakes up in the morning, the road's closed because of snow, so we can't leave out until 9 or 10 few hours for the road to open, especially because I went through training through the winter. And I would say any trucker that's really wanting to do this as a career, get winter training, because once you get out there solo and you get winter, you go in the winter, you're going to stress, you're going to get worried, you're going to get scared. Go through training during the winter. And there's been times where we had to shut down, and unexpectedly, we're on, especially I-80 in Nebraska. Wyoming was closed, so we were 100 and some odd miles from the Wyoming-Nebraska border, but it was just better to shut down, 150 miles beforehand instead of trying to keep getting closer and closer, and knowing that everybody realizes the highway shutting down, they're going to have to shut down at some point too. So truck stops were going to get full, rest areas were going to get full, and my trainer didn't like stopping at rest areas because he didn't have food and stuff like that on his truck. So we had to stop at a truck stop, which was Sap Brothers. And truck stop life is a whole different ball game too, because you're not dealing with the same truck stop every single time you stop. You might have your favorites and all that stuff, especially once you get out here, you have your favorites you like to go to, but you're not going to the same truck stop on a daily basis. And so you have to get acclimated with, different trucks. Get your rewards cards. Get those cards that you get the fuel points. You get points for fueling, all that stuff, because you can buy stuff. You can redeem that for different things. If sometimes you might have a bad week and you don't have that much money coming in, and you want to buy some food or some stuff, you can use your points to do that. That's just a little trucker tip right there. The other thing is, when you're doing weather driving, like winter driving, you want to be prepared and have, because this actually happened. His APU went out, which is auxiliary power unit, which you probably hear a little hum in the back right now. That's basically what's powering my truck while I'm sitting here, so it's not draining the batteries. And his APU went out, so therefore we didn't have any heat. And we were running the truck, but you can only run it for so long before you want to cut it off, because you're costing, diesel wasn't as much back in 2017 as it is now, but it still was pricey. So you might want to invest in, I have a little heater that I use that I plug into the cigarette lighter, electric blanket, things that won't draw so much power if you have to if you happen to run out of power in your truck or something. I also have an external battery. It's actually in my car right now. I took it out, but it actually has ports on it for emergency charging. So if I need to plug in an electric blanket, or if I need to plug in my cell phone, or if I need, it has, AC power, it has, DC power, it has all that stuff. It has different types of power. It also has USB ports and stuff like that, so it can charge stuff. Also, you want to make sure you want to have warm weather gear. They have the little hand and feet heaters they're like little packets you put in your gloves. That helps. My dad actually got me for this past Christmas. It was a heated jacket that I had wanted. It's a USB. You plug it up, it charges, and it's a heated jacket. That helps. There's all kinds of different things you can use out here. Boots, you want to have warm weather gloves, all the stuff like that. But you want to have cold weather gear, especially if you're not from, if you're from like down south, where they don't get cold stuff, you really want to stock up on that type of stuff. In the winter, you want to have anti-gel, which it prevents diesel fuel from freezing. You want to make sure you have enough coolant, oil, stuff like additives that you might need. Some people even keep a bonus diesel can of fuel on the back of their truck if they need it. You want jumper cables. Those are just some things off the top of my head. I can't remember everything, but you also, inside your truck, you want to keep water. You want to keep some staples in case you are stuck on the side of the road for extended period of time because you didn't trip plan, or things go wrong, you break down, and then you might be stuck in the middle of a snowstorm. So sometimes if you do trip plan and things happen, but you still want to make sure you have the essentials on your truck to help you survive. Hot weather, you want to make sure that you have, once again, water. You want to have coolant. You want to have oil. You want to have windshield wiper fluid. You want to have the things that you need to help keep you cool. My husband has a fan. If you look on my TikTok, I'm pointing up here because I haven't had my bed down since I had a student or a trainee or a co-driver. But now I've turned this into a man cave for him. So if you follow me on TikTok, you can see my man cave that we have created for him that we use. When I'm taking my 10-hour break and I need to get sleep, he can watch TV up there. He can play his game up there. He can stretch out and be whatever up there and not really disturb me. That's something we learned from the last time he was on my truck. It was like I wasn't, I was getting sleep, but it was like frustrating because he wanted to watch TV and play his game, and I'm trying to sleep, so the light from TV was keeping me up, blah 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 blah, which is weird because I could sleep through truck stops and truck stop noise and reefers and APUs and all that stuff, but the TV brightness, that for some reason, I guess I'm getting old, I don't know. But you want to keep the fan. You have a fan, have some type of cool drinks, a extra way of keeping yourself cool. Another tip that helps, so you don't have to run your truck as much if you don't have an APU, is while you're driving down the road, close your bunk curtains and blast that sleeper berth AC, so that helps cool it down faster back here, and sleep at night with your bunk. Like, I have the front windows for my curtains as well as the bunk. I usually don't use the bunk curtains unless I'm team driving. But if it's really, really hot, like if I'm in Texas, I will close the bunk curtains because it keeps it cooler back here. So those are just things I had to learn as I'm going through being out here on the road. I always keep extra stuff, like I have extra, I have first aid stuff. I have extra feminine products. I have like medicines for myself because if I'm sick, like I was a few weeks ago, the truck stops usually don't have a lot of stuff. So I needed, some Pedialyte. I needed something to help with just maintaining like my cough down. So I had, keeping that down. There's some truck stops are getting better, but I had some stuff to maintain a cold and help with, sore throat and all that stuff. I had a thermometer to take my temperature, making sure. I took a rapid COVID test. I also had taken a PCR test. The both came back negative, but I still did that just to make sure it wasn't COVID after traveling. Ever since COVID, I keep some extra stuff on my truck, rubbing alcohol, gloves, and masks, because in case there's another huge spike. And being as I was out here during the COVID pandemic, I know what it was like when things shut down. I keep a lot of food and snacks, stuff that I can eat, in case I can't get to a truck stop. And I have to stop at a rest area. I don't need a truck stop if I don't have to. But I also try to trip plan too if I do need to stop and grab food before I get to a rest area, because most times I try to stop at rest areas for my breaks. It's just quieter and usually a lot less hassle. And that's what I've learned now. But as a trainee, I didn't know that. Another thing is adapting to living on a truck, realizing that you don't need as much stuff as you thought you do. When I go home, I feel overwhelmed that I have too much space, because I feel, I'm so used to being in a little smaller area. So now being in an open space, a closed space is it's actually more comforting for me. I realize I don't need as much stuff. As you progress into the trucking industry, like, you become a minimalist. Like, my trainer was a very big minimalist. He hardly had anything. He had his suitcase of clothes. He had his iPad, his Bible. And that was pretty much all he needed, his cell phone, and that was it. I made my truck more homey because I do, want to feel comfortable when I come back into where I'm at, where I'm sitting right now. As you can see, I've added lights back here. Like, I have done a whole redo over of my bunk, so make sure you check out my TikTok. But I want it to feel like home, because technically this is my home until I go home. Sometimes I'm out on the road for 2-3 months, and so I'm home. This is my home while I'm, on the road. So you also want to prepare yourself mentally for being in areas that you're not used to. Going in the mountains, like, I've been in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I'm talking about big mountains, Rockies, the mountains over there in California, Oregon, those mountains that have those steep passes. I mean, those were like, oh wow, I'm out here in the, like, you wake up, you're like, damn, I'm miles away from home. It can be intimidating because just like, dang it, I'm out here by myself, especially when you get out here by yourself. When you're out there with a trainer, it's not so much, but it's like, dang, I'm out here in this, I'm out here. So that is one of the things I learned out of trucking. I have another funny story that I have to put out here about my trainer. So we were picking up a load, and I can't remember for life me where it was at, but I'll never forget. He was getting out of the truck because the bills were ready. So he was getting out of the truck. He just disappears. Like, normally you step down to get out of the truck. He like stepped and just disappeared. He fell. It was funny after the fact once he was okay, but it was just funny, now I think about it. That was those type of things kind of, I still tease him about it. But safety is very important when you're getting in and out of the truck, because you can hurt yourself getting in and out of the trailer. Getting in and out of the truck, you can hurt yourself really bad. So you want to make sure you're using safe 3 points of contact. If it's wet, really, really be careful. Hold on, have a good grip. Don't have a whole bunch of stuff in your hand. If you're, getting in and out the trailer, keep that left trailer door closed so that you can use that to get in and out. Take steps. Don't jump out, because if you fall, you could, really hurt yourself. Also, if you open a door, you're opening your doors, open one door first, make sure no product is shifted, because if that falls on you, or if you have seen that video, I feel so bad, from that that guy that was opening, or I think he was opening or closing his trailer doors, I can't remember, but he opened that door and it just smacked him in his head. Luckily he was okay. He was injured, of course, but luckily he didn't get killed. But there's so many trucking accidents out here. A lot of people don't realize. People get hurt backing up at docks. People get hurt, working on trailers, and drivers driving off. And, there's so many injuries that happen, slips and falls, all that stuff, injuries like that. So it's a dangerous job when the truck's not really going down the highway. So just be careful in general. Being out here on the road is another thing. Just seeing the road and seeing the seeing the countryside, that's a whole new thing. One thing I will say for sure, that there's so much to this US that I had traveled a lot, but seeing roads that most people don't travel that often, gorgeous. It can be overwhelming, sitting in traffic, dealing with construction, dealing with accidents, dealing with weather and all that stuff. That comes with the territory, so you have to mentally prepare yourself for that as well. But one thing I would say about training also, before I stop talking about this, training can be like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to get my own truck. I'm ready to get on my own. I'm ready. Because you're sharing a space with somebody else. And I'm going to say this now. Don't rush to be on your own. Stay on the truck with your trainer if you can, because you need knowledge. You need experience. Luckily, I can pick up the phone any time of day for the most part and call my trainer. Not everybody has a trainer that's like that, so you need to absorb as much information. But I was ready to go. I was ready to get off my trainer's truck. I was like, I want my own truck. I want my own space. I'm ready to, be on my own. So when, got time for me to finish those 30,000 miles, not 3,000, 30,000 miles, I was able to get my own truck. And if you look on my Instagram, I do have pictures of my first truck, which it was blue and it had Air Force logos on it. So, if you're following me and stuff, you can see pictures of my current truck, which is white, which still has Air Force stuff on it, like the Air Force Thunderbirds and all that stuff. But it's my second truck that I'm driving now. So my next episode, I'm going to go into my first time getting my truck and that whole, thing. So stay tuned, tune in for 2 weeks from now for my next episode. And until then, here's my Diva moment. Y'all have a good one. All right, this is Diva Moment 13. And today I might sound a little different. And that's because I'm recording from my seat, but I'm not driving. I'm sitting still. So it's a little bit quieter. Currently at a terminal in Pennsylvania, at one of our terminals. My trailer needed some work done. So this week's Diva Moment is a little frustrating because I've had some equipment failures regarding my hours of service, or HOS, and my map service, OmniTracks. That's what our provider is, that provides a service for communications with our dispatch. It gives us our fuel information. It's like a system that that's on the truck. Our hours of service, maps, all that stuff. If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, I'll be posting a video about hours of service and showing you what the Qualcomm is eventually. But the problem is, last week we had an outage and it was bad. First, my navigation wouldn't work. Then I couldn't send or receive messages on the actual device. Luckily, Prime has an app that kind of negates the whole communicating with Fleet Manager, stuff like that. But my hours of service got messed up. So you know what that means? I have to run paper logs. I haven't had to run paper logs since I was in training. almost 5 years ago, I was so stressed out because my logs didn't match what I really had driven. According to my logs, I wasn't even logged in on my Qualcomm because it kept logging me out, kept shutting down and rebooting and all that stuff. So it looked like I had driven from, I want to say it was Tennessee, all the way up to Tennessee to Michigan, without having any proof of me being logged in. So I was stressed about that. And those of you that are truck drivers know how important our hours of service are. That's our legal document. That's our legal clock, basically telling us how many hours we have left that we can drive in the day or the week, when we need to take our break. So, for you four-wheelers out there, that's why it's important to not cut off a truck, because we are actually physically on a clock. We have a clock that tells us how much time we have left to drive every day. We can drive legally 11 hours a day, but we have a 14-hour clock that never stops running. So if our 14-hour catches up to our 11-hour, then our 14-hour clock is now what we're going to. So I could have 6 hours of drive time, but if my 14-hour says I only have 4 hours, I only have 4 hours of legal drive time. So that's why it's imperative for us to get where we need to get, because we got to shut down, find a parking, so we don't get violated, because that's tickets. It can put you out of service. It can cause a lot of problems. So I was worried that because I wasn't logged in, it showed that I had driven from Tennessee to Michigan with no clock. Like, I just basically said, hey, I'm going to run this clock. I'm going to run my shift without having my clock, which was not the case. I had time, but it wasn't on there. Then it decided to completely, once it logged me out, it completely reset my hours. Completely. 100%. It's what we call a 34-hour reset. It gave me a 34-hour reset without me actually taking one. So it looked like for the last 8 days, I had just been sitting still when I haven't taken a 34-hour reset since the middle of June, when I was sick. That's one of the things I was experiencing when I came back from Germany. I got a little cold. And I hadn't taken that. So that was like 3 weeks ago almost, if not 3 weeks ago. And so for me to have to deal with having a refresh clock, but showing that I've been driving, it was kind of like counterintuitive. It was like, oh, Lord Jesus, what am I going to do? So, luckily, nothing really happened. It didn't get pulled in because it was a nationwide outage. It wasn't just affecting Prime. It was affecting anybody that had OmniTracks. It was the entire system. So I'm pretty sure DOT officers were aware. And I pulled out my logbook and I started to write my hours for, the last couple of days. So that was frustrating. And it's really hard to plan that. It's really hard to know, when am I supposed to get my logbook together? How much time do I have to get my logbook together? If my Qualcomm had been messing up since that morning after I had already started driving, how and when am I supposed to get my logbook together? That's the question I was wondering, like, how, and I actually still have that question. So the other thing is that even though I got a 34-hour reset, I'm grateful for it in a sense, because it gave me a fresh 70 hours on my clock, because that's how many hours we can work before we have to shut down for 34 hours. Like, we have to, unless you, what we call recaps, meaning like in 8 days, whatever you worked on that day 8 days ago, that's what you're going to get back, or 7 days ago. I might be phrasing it wrong, but basically whatever you're going to get back in that week. So today is Thursday, so next Thursday what I worked today, I'm going to get back at midnight Central Standard Time on Friday morning at midnight. So that's called recaps. So if my 70's running low, I try to run off my recaps. That's why it's good to manage your clock and not try to drive 10 and a half, 11 hours a day. Sometimes you have no choice, but you don't do that every day. Good averages, I usually do between 8 and 9.5 hour days. Now, that's just driving. That's not including on duty time, backing into receivers and shippers and putting load locks in, getting washouts, getting fuel. My days sometimes are 14-hour days, but that's how much on duty time I have to do anything that's on duty, including driving. So I was able to get a fresh 70, but I was still nervous that, like, how do I reconcile this in my books if I get pulled over? So long story short is I have to refresh my cell phone logbooks because I could not remember for the life of me how to do it, because this is the first time there has been outages, but it wasn't to this level where it was like 3 days of it just malfunctioning, just shutting on and shutting off, resetting, logging me out, not getting messages, not updating my load information, not giving me my navigation. So that was a struggle, but I was able to do it and I made it through. So I hope y'all have a good one out there. Stay safe. What's your 20? Truckin' Lady out.